Hey, Glen Powell, the running man himself. Your time.
Well, first off, I mean, Stephen King wrote the book in 1982. It's set in 2025, and we're obviously getting to release this movie in 2025, which is pretty cool. And I think the really fun part about the story is really, this is a movie about a guy who's signs up for the world's deadliest game show, a game show with no survival rate. Like no one has ever won this game show. They release a man out into the world for 30 days, and everybody in the world is trying to kill him. And I think the fun part about that premise is that Stephen King's book has really never been put on screen. We got to screen the movie for Arnold Schwarzenegger last night, who absolutely loved it. And I think one of the things that he talked about is just for practical reasons. It's hard to do a movie with that scale and scope and stakes. And so the movie that they made, was in a sort of a television studio, sort of very American Gladiators type, environment in which these hunters were kind of hunting him down. But what he even talked about it last night, just the idea that it's so exciting that Stephen King is able to put his vision on screen for really the first time, which is like we're very loyal to the book in that way. So I will say, anytime you're making something with a title like this, Stephen King, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Edgar Wright. I mean, it's always they always say it's like pressure's a privilege, and this one is obviously you could read it as pressure, with something with this scale, but for me it was just, I was surrounded by really, really talented, wonderful people, and the movie shows. It was a team effort.
It's a very intense role, very physical, and I believe you are almost on every scene in the movie. What was the most challenging for you?
I don't think there was an easy day on set. I think the premise is sort of life and death stakes. From minute one in the movie. He's a guy that leaves his house. I say it's sort of like the most high octane pharmacy run of all time. Where he's trying to show up for his daughter, so from minute one you're seeing Ben in a really stressful state. So I don't think there was really an easy scene. When you watch the movie, it's 2 hours wall-to-wall action, wall-to-wall stakes, kind of nonstop. So I don't think I really had a day off. That's for sure.
And we are in this dystopian world, right? With the network, that is this is kind of a company or the government itself, but they control everything. I don't know if there is also like kind of a social criticism or of the current. There are references to AI too, right? I don't want to say too much about the movie, but is there like an aspect here of criticizing or the perils of our current society?
Well, I think that's what makes Stephen King's book so prophetic. Is it's unbelievable for writing this in 1982 and setting it in 2025. How weirdly and eerily 2025 looks like our 2025. Sure, there's some difference in sort of the look of some tech and some world building aspects, but for the most part, the fact that deep fake videos are very much part of our news cycle, how we define our heroes, how we define our villains, just the nature of the reality TV world. You and I both know we live in a world of Instagram and TikTok, and sort of the way we observe victims and villains and carnage. Sometimes scrolling, takes away our humanity, little by little. And what I find to be what wonderful about this movie is I don't think it's really a criticism. I think it's sort of infused with hope, which is this idea of like, how do you find humanity in an inhumane world, in a world in which, people root for a man's death? How does this man, rise up and represent something, the best of humanity, not the worst?
And lastly, you've done now, 20 years of career, always up, exploding the last 4 years, but you have done romantic comedies, action. What is your favorite genre? Yeah. Where do you feel more comfortable?
No, I'm just a fan of movies. You know, I just like, I really love all of it. You know, it's one of the things that I feel the most excited about is I sort of have like a bingo card of all the types of movies that I want to make, you know, the things that got me into this business in the first place. And that's what I'm getting to do. Running Man is very much a type of movie that I've always wanted to make, sort of this underdog hero, you know, who's fighting against an oppressive system, you know, sort of the ordinary man against extraordinary odds. It's the kind of movie that I've always wanted to make. And I will say it's a genre, you know, this action genre. It's my first foray really being out in front of something like this. And even Arnold Schwarzenegger said last night, he goes, ooh, he goes, that looks so tough. He goes, I bet that was brutal to film. Because he's made all these action movies and he knows how tough it is to practically shoot these things, the kind of abuse that you actually, you know, put on yourself when you want to sell it for audiences. And you know, the thing about it is he loved this movie. Like he just went on and on about, you know, what it takes to make a great action movie, and he just left the theater just soaring last night. It was just awesome to watch his reaction, but he also knows that it takes a lot of work to sell a movie like this, and Edgar and I worked relentlessly on this thing to make sure that it really worked in a different way for audiences.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time, Glenn.
I appreciate it.